On today's episode of Ray's Sauna Fart Talk Show, we're going to talk about Madam Web. We're going to do a full spoiler review so you don't have to see it because we're looking out for you. We got your back, everybody. Also, X-Men 97. They dropped the first trailer. I haven't cared about this show, but it gave me all the vibes, actually. And, you know, Jake Gyllenhaal's got that Roadhouse movie, and there's been some drama. You don't even know the half of the drama that's been going on behind the scenes. Variety did an article about it. We're going to discuss that. Also, we've got in July, next July, Superman Legacy and Fantastic Four coming out just 2 weeks apart. Which one of those two are going to win the box office? And there's a brand new Marvel animated show coming, and it's going to be hardcore R. And the director says people die, and they die rough. We're going to discuss that and a whole bunch more. The John Campea Show podcast starts right now. Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show podcast, coming from right here in our quaint little studio, brought to you in part by our friends at Mint Mobile. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, our international friends, gather around. So we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news, TV and streaming, and all sorts of good stuff. Not just giving you our opinions, but also giving you some background and context so you guys can form your own well-informed opinions, whether they're the same or completely different than ours. Joining me in studio, we got Ray Ora.
Hey.
Jonathan Boyko's here.
You better hope I like your answers.
Chris Carr is here.
Jesus, okay.
And most importantly, you guys are here. Thank you so much, guys, for being here and making this show part of your day. And here's how today's show is going to go. We're going to break it into two parts. In the first part of the show, we're going to talk about those predetermined topics. And in the last part of the show, we're going to take your live comments and questions. If you guys have a thought, theory, opinion, question, observation, whatever you want to share and have us talk about, go ahead and drop it in as a super chat in the live chat, and we'll get to those as long as they're appropriate to be used on our show at the last part of the show.
I just want to bring something up real quick.
Milk?
There's a lot of, there's no. If you're still riding the Halo series train like I am,
I hear there's plenty of seats.
No, I know there's plenty of seats. We're not even in the Warthog. We're in the Mongoose. But oh my God, tonight's new episode, they're going to Reach, and I get goosebumps.
Did you watch the first two episodes?
Yeah, yes. I
liked it.
I think it's better, but Master Chief is headed to Reach, and everyone who knows Halo knows what happens there. I cannot wait for this episode tonight. It's going to be awesome.
Well, hopefully it will be.
Yeah.
Hopefully. I like the first two episodes that they dropped. I thought it was a step up from last season.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
We'll see how it turns out. All right, guys. That all down? Let's get things started with this. Yesterday was a day that will be long remembered. Madam Web.
Woof.
Dropping on the day of love. Valentine's Day. Where is that camera going? What happened there?
I'll fix that in a second.
You brought up Madam Web, and it just
Like, no.
It said no. I'm not.
I'm going to look over here. I'm not.
Just instantly start going wrong.
Bail on it.
What is that? Anyway, yeah, Madam Web. I don't even know if you should say the name anymore.
Don't say it 3 times at least.
So we went to go see it yesterday, and I got to say, it was every bit as bad as I was expecting,
Nice.
Which is too bad because I was kind of hoping with all the negative word of mouth and the fact that Sony didn't even try and the fact that they held the review embargo until the day before the movie came out, I at least told myself, you know what? Maybe I'll come out going, well, you know what? It was better than I thought it would be, right? It was every bit as bad as I thought it would be. And I'm going to say this. I said this in our quick out of the theater review reaction. There are some people who think it's even worse than Morbius. I don't think it's worse than Morbius. But the very fact that you even have to have that conversation tells you a little bit something about how bad this movie is. This movie is wretchedly bad. And listen, whenever people say, I can make a movie better than that. No, you can't. You take the worst Hollywood film ever. You can't make a better movie than that. But I kind of feel like a lot of you could in this particular situation. I kind of feel like, what the hell was going on? And I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying to be mean. You know me, like even when I watch movies I don't like, I try to focus on what was positive in it. I try to say, hey, you know what? This thing was good and this thing was good. This movie is absolutely atrocious. And I'm going to spoil it right now. I am classifying this, if you look at the title, we are classifying this as a spoiler review. Why? So you don't have to see it. So let's start with the bad guy that you just had up there, Jonathan.
All right.
The bad guy in the film is the dumbest, worst villain I think I've ever seen in a film. and I'll go one step further than that. The actor's name who plays him, well, I'm not really familiar with his work. Tahar Rahim, who plays the baddie. Mm-hmm. It is the worst performance I have ever seen in a superhero movie. Now, I'm not saying he's a bad performer. It might have been the direction. It was certainly the dialogue he was given didn't help. And maybe he's great in other things, okay? I'm not saying that Tahar is a bad actor. I'm just saying the combination of the script, the direction, and the performance equated to the single worst performance I have ever seen in a comic book film. The line, remember how I complained about, like in the Madam Web trailer, I said there's some things there that have potential, but I was really concerned because like all the dialogue said in the trailer sounded really wooden. Mm-hmm. That's every syllable that comes out of his mouth. I had a dream. These three girls kill me. They must not exist so I can have a future. Like every single syllable was dry and wooden and crappy. Like it almost was like, I don't even know what to compare it to. It was just dreadful. Dakota Johnson. I love Dakota Johnson. I think she's great. I know she's quite a good actress. I know that. That is up in the head helmet up here. I know this. She's a good performer. Oh, she didn't give two shits about this movie. She didn't try one bit. It's like she read it and she's like, let's be honest. There's nothing I'm going to be able to do to salvage this. It's like she read this. She goes, it doesn't matter what I do. I can't salvage this. You know, who was it that reminded me the other day that the day the trailer came out, Dakota Johnson fired her agency?
Me.
Was that you, Chris, to remind us of that?
Yes, it was. She left WME for CAA that day.
That day that the trailer dropped, it's like, you guys do Madam Web, they said. It'll be great for the career, they said.
Ruh-roh.
And listen, she didn't do herself any favors in this movie. Her lines came across as dry and wooden as they did in the trailer. That's my mom. I'll say this. There's this one scene, one very, very short scene where she kind of travels back in time in a way through her mystical threads and sees her mom while her mom was still pregnant with her. And they have a nice moment. It's a short moment in the film. And it's almost like it was a moment in the film that was like the Sesame Street game. One of these things is not like the other, because it was a nice little moment that did not fit in this movie at all. I'll give it that. The three girls, Sydney Sweeney, and I can't remember the names of the other two actresses. Yeah. But the three girls that Madam Web is trying to protect is the dumbest collection of characters I've ever seen assembled in a movie. Like, these characters are stupid. Despite the fact that the one girl wears a shirt that says, I eat math for breakfast. So it's really smart. Holy crap, you're really stupid for a smart person. And there's something very frustrating when you're an audience member. You know the old stereotype of, like, when you're watching a horror movie, it's like, don't go down to the basement. What are you doing? It's like every single decision, and I get it, they're young. These characters are young. They're not 3. And every single decision they make in this movie is like, how is anybody this fundamentally, existentially stupid? It's unbelievable. There's a scene, and I did warn you, this is a spoiler review. There's a scene where this evil, bad acting Spider-Man, at least in this movie, bad acting, is hunting them down. So Madam Web doesn't know what to do. So she's like, takes all these three girls into a forest, right? There's a clip of this in the trailer. Takes them all into the forest. They literally just witnessed this guy kill police officers, is hunting them down and trying to kill them. So Madam Web says, okay, I need to go back into town to try to figure something out. I will be back in 3 hours. Stay here, and I'll be back in 3 hours. These girls literally just thought they were about to die. Madam Web leaves, and they're like, I'm hungry. I saw a diner up the road. Let's go to the diner. And they go, and then when they get to the diner, they're like, we're not attracting enough attention. There's a booth of cute boys over there. Let's all go start dancing on the table in a truck stop diner. And they literally, like they cut from one shot of them in the diner, like eating food and saying, oh, we should go talk to them. And then it cuts to Madam Web in the city doing some research, which is a horrible, horrible scene because she's talking out loud to herself because, you know, the audience is so dumb. They need everything explained in verbal exposition. Anyway, and then as soon as it comes back, they're in this truck stop diner and these three girls dancing on the table who are trying to lay low. And none of the wait staff seem to have a problem with it. It's all good.
Well, you know when you're a waitress and people start dancing in there. When you work at IHOP and a bunch of
how it
musical
is.
theater kids come in, you love that shit.
I love when Britney Spears comes on
That's
the
great.
music track at a truck
Yep.
stop full of
Put
dudes.
your jazz hands down and eat your
they're
pancake.
playing Britney Spears in a trucker stop diner.
Everyone
Okay.
likes Britney.
Not that I didn't like. Leave Britney alone.
Yeah, leave
I
her
didn't mind.
The music was fine.
The music was fine. The music
The
was
setting was all wrong.
fine. So the basic premise. Okay, so these characters are really stupid, and I kind of wanted them to die. You know, I was kind of like
Already?
I think
Oh my God.
I'm pretty sure I want him to catch them. I'm pretty sure I want them to die. So the basic premise is, why does this dude want to kill these girls? Well, okay, so apparently he's been having dreams that sometime in the future, these three spider women catch up to him and kill him by throwing him out of a window. Right? This is a shot from one of the visions there. That sometime in the future, probably about 15, 20 years from now, judging by how gray his hair is in the vision, these girls with spider superpowers are going to show up and kill him. I want you to pay attention to this part because this is important. They're going to kill him by throwing him out of a window. You see, why that's a bad plan is that in the film, we see the bad guy standing on top of like a 40-story building, looking for his quarry. He's looking for the girls, right? And then he sees down on the street the car that he knows the girls are in. So what he does is, he doesn't climb down the wall. No, he jumps. He jumps a good 30 stories and lands with a superhero pose.
You got it?
But why? But you're worried that they're going to throw you out a window. I just watched you literally jump from 30 stories, but the whole thing, the spark plug, if you will, the linchpin of what is driving this story is this dude is so worried that sometime in the future, these three girls are going to throw him out a window.
It's the glass of the window that
Oh,
actually kills
that's
them.
right, because that gets
You don't,
in your
you don't
ass.
see him fall. All the glass, it lands upright.
Oh, and
you
that's painful. Yeah.
That's not even webs on that poster behind you. That's cracked glass.
That's what it is. It's all about the broken glass. So I'm like, okay. So, and then I'm thinking, now I understand now we're getting into, time travel, paraphysics and all this kind of stuff. But I'm thinking to myself, if what you're worried about from these dreams is that sometime in the future, these three girls that you've never met before might get superpowers and murder you someday, maybe you move. Because in his vision, he's in his apartment, the apartment he currently has. And I'm thinking, okay, move, go to Spain.
Change the door locks.
Change the door lock. You know what? Paint the walls.
Paint
so the
the
walls
walls.
are a different color than they are in your vision. Or maybe kill one of the girls. But no, he's obsessed that he's got to kill all three girls. And sure, okay, that's fine. This movie is so bad. Like every line of dialogue that the characters say to each other is painful to listen to. The one thing I will say, and Ray pointed this out to me earlier, was there's a final shot in the movie. Oh, and by the way, you know how they finally beat the bad guy? So Cassandra, that's Madam Web, she's having flashes, like as they're in the middle of the big fight, she has flashes of about a big street sign falling down. So she just kind of maneuvers herself so the bad guy's in a position where the street sign falls on him. Mm-hmm. And there it is. And then she ends up blind and in a wheelchair at the end. So more of a classic Madam Web look. And there's a shot now, fast forwarding 20 years in the future, where the three girls now have their spider powers. They never explain how they get their spider power. That's fine. The three girls have spider power, and Madam Web is like looking like Madam Web hovering behind them. I got to say, Ray pointed it out to me, and I have to admit it was right. It was a pretty cool looking shot. I would make that into a poster.
Yeah.
It was a good shot.
Cool.
It was a very good shot. I'll give it that. But nothing redeemable. I don't even know where to go with this.
Yeah, I think Sydney Sweeney, the character she had to play, like the really, like, you know, sheltered sort of thing. She played, I thought she played that aspect of it okay.
Oh, sure. But this Sydney Sweeney character, who's this prim and proper, really shy, can't talk to boys, good girl,
on the table.
Is walking around in a skirt a little bit longer than my belt. Okay, and I'm supposed to believe she's a super shy conservative girl. And meanwhile, she's just walking around with like literally 4 inches of ass crack hanging out the back.
No,
it's just like, how am I supposed to believe
But
that
I
this
bet she
character...
takes their glasses off at some point.
Is that when they realize she's pretty?
And then she's beautiful.
Yep.
Man.
Oh, no. You know, instead of taking the glasses off and then they realize, oh, she's hot. Like when they decide it's time to go and dance on the table, the other girl comes up. See how she's wearing the white blouse?
Yeah.
You know, the girl at the skateboard goes, no, let's do this. And she pulls up her white blouse and
kinda.
ties it in the knot
It's
on
the
the
love
top. So you
knot.
got the little Daisy Duke kind of looking thing going on.
So
and now
is-
she has the confidence to dance on the table in front of the boys.
Is somebody superpowered, like time traveling from the 90s and using
Yeah.
all these old
Well,
aesthetics or
To
from
be
the early
fair, no,
aughts?
this takes place in 2003.
Oh, okay. Well, then that makes sense to me. I actually can support that then
the
because
movie
that
takes
was
place in
very, very
2003
on brand.
because there's this whole subplot. Now, of course, Cassandra's partner, who we see in her ambulance partner, who we see in the is Adam Scott. He's in the trailer. He plays Ben Parker, who of course is Uncle Ben, and we meet his sister-in-law, his brother's wife, Emma Roberts, and Richard is off on a business trip, so he's not there. But she's very pregnant, and at her baby shower, they're playing a game. Who wants to guess the name of the baby? And just as somebody starts to form the word P, and they're like, then something happens, and Cassandra snaps into one of her visions. And then it ends with them frantically, the bad guy's chasing the girls. The girls are hanging out at Ben's house. Of course, Emma Roberts goes into labor. And now we got to drive to the hospital while the bad guy's chasing us and all this kind of stuff. And it ends with her having the baby and then saying, what's the name? But they cut away from the conversation. And then they're talking to Cassandra in the hospital that she's now blind and paralyzed, but she survived. And the three girls are talking to her and she's like, how's Ben? And they're like, oh, Ben's so happy he gets to be the uncle, all the benefits with none of the responsibilities. Then the Cassandra smiles and she goes, he has no idea. Because of course she can see into the future, right? Because Spider-Man, everybody. This movie is a bucket of shit that was poured over another bucket of shit left in the sun for several days. It's really bad.
I hate to bring up another movie because they're not like each other. I'm going to bring up The Marvels. See, the problem...
The Marvels is an Oscar-winning film compared to this.
Yeah, but the problem I have with both these movies is from the very get-go. In The Marvels, when I saw the villain and she first appears and she had her little sidekick with her, I couldn't help but just say, I was like, are these people in cosplay? Is this a villain? A real That's the same thing with this villain. That when I immediately don't take the villain seriously, and it's just not even a threat, a life threat towards the heroes, I'm already off the train. Like I can't. What makes me invest in something where the villain is laughable to me? Like it's like a slap in the face. If you're gonna put a group of whatever girls, a group of guys, whatever, give me a threat that is actually worth sticking around for to see how they defeat. Not like some guy. This guy reminded me of. I called him Edgar Wright, Dos Equis commercial. Edgar Wright.
Slightly younger, most interesting man in the world. That reminds me too. So The whole premise is, it starts off, because you see the trailer, he was with my mom when she was in the jungles of Peru researching spiders. Okay, so the reason her mom's in Peru researching spiders is because she's pregnant, and a doctor just told her that her baby is going to be born with this condition that the baby's not going to survive, right? So she remembers hearing that, well, in the jungles of Peru, there's rumors of this spider venom that can save. So she goes out to the jungles of Peru and accomplishes something that the science community hasn't been able to accomplish by herself in about 3 weeks. And so, and then there's these mystical tribesmen who live in the forests of Peru who supposedly, according to legend, take the spider venom and it gives them superpowers. And of course, when everything starts going bad, these junglemen come out of the trees and they're covered in like a black piping sap that just makes it all look like Spider-Man costumes. So it looks like these 8 Spider-Men are coming down out of the thing. Like when the action stops and it's close up, you can tell it's just like this black stuff that's over top of them. But in the action scenes, they even try to make it look like Spider-Man. The movie is just really bad. Adam Scott did his best to try to make it.
He was good in it.
He was good in it. Adam Scott was good. He was the only one. And again, I don't even know how much blame goes to the actors in this film because there was nothing to work with. This was really bad. And again, they should have adopted the David Zaslav approach and just scrapped this movie and saved the tarnishing of the Sony Spider-Verse reputation even more. They should have just scrapped this movie and then held out for Craven. But
that final shot, they should have started the movie from that shot right there.
that could have been the start of the movie and it would have been more interesting. Yeah. Anyway, guys, that's Madam Web. I just told you the movie. You don't have to see it now. You're welcome. But hey, if you're morbidly curious, go check it out. Or morbiously curious, go check it out.
Oh.
All right. Guys, with that down, let's move on to a happier thing, shall we? The X-Men animated series was something that, I used to love. It was great. I loved it. I adored it. It was all that kind of stuff. And then Marvel made a really interesting announcement that they were going to bring back that cartoon series and like literally pick it up right after the series finale. And they were appropriately calling it X-Men 97. Well, the trailer actually dropped today. And even though I like the original series, I haven't been interested in this. This trailer, the word nostalgia doesn't do it justice. It literally teleported me back decades ago to younger John watching these X-Men cartoons. It gave all the feels and all the vibes. The lines were said exactly the way they used to be said in the cartoons. And it ending with, Charles left everything to Magneto. But correct me if I'm wrong. I thought at the end of the X-Men series, the Shi'ar Empire took Charles away to keep him alive. But in the trailer, it made it look like he died.
It's the finale's graduation day, and I
Right.
believe he does pass.
See, I thought he
in
was
that.
dying, but then I thought the Shi'ar Empire took him away.
I could be wrong because I haven't watched it
I could
since
be wrong,
97,
too.
So I need
I
to.
could be wrong too. Yeah, I don't know. But listen, I thought the trailer was really quite good. It feels like I was just watching the X-Men animated series and this is just the next episode. It felt seamless. Anyway, Chris, you had a chance to take a look at this. Have you been looking forward to the show? And what did you think about the trailer?
I've been stoked about this show because this was one of my gateway drugs growing up. All right. It was this, the Spider-Man animated series, the Batman animated series, and Sailor Moon that got me into reading comics and manga. And this show, too, got me getting the trading cards and everything. I was obsessed. I love it so much. Rogue and Gambit in this show? Hello.
Oh, yeah.
Come on. That was very important and informative to a young Chris Carr. I'm really, really pumped about this. I think it's going to be really cool. I love that it's a continuation of the 97 series and we're picking up right from there. I love that the animation style, too, is marrying back to that 92 through 97 animation that we saw before.
It's a little more detail.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's still a tribute to it
Yep.
without still looking clunky or anything. I know some people, when I was checking on Instagram, how people were reacting to it too. Some people thought the animation was too clunky or weird. I think it really is a wonderful continuation of what we'd seen before. I'm very excited about this. The moment too, when Gambit charges Wolverine's claws.
Oh, yeah.
Are you shitting me? I'm very ready for this.
You're correct about the X-Men, Professor X thing.
He gets taken away by the Shi'ar
actually-
Empire.
Yeah, she actually takes him because he needs to go under her care. He can't-
Right, it's the only way to keep him alive.
Yeah, because-
Okay, right.
yeah.
So, I mean, that's good because I think the show, look, I think almost anything X-Men, you need to have Charles Xavier. Like, Charles Xavier is the centerpiece of what the X-Men is. And so I hope at some point they do actually bring him back
No
into the
one
show.
ever dies. No one ever is
Yeah,
dead forever.
it's-
Everyone gets resurrected. Look at Jean Grey. Phoenix, come on. What's really cool, too, is so many of the original voice actors are coming back for this as well.
Right.
Which is really, really delightful. And certain corrections that needed to be made with casting have been made. So it's going to be fun.
I think, and by the way, for those of you who don't know, Magneto
Oh,
is my all-time favorite comic book character. Not favorite comic character in movies. I mean, overall, he's my all-time favorite character.
He's looking a little labyrinth here, but yeah.
Yeah, actually, you're
He's about
right.
to ask you about a babe.
There is a little labyrinth in there. Anyway, guys, question is for you. Did you have a chance to see the X-Men 97 trailer? If so, what did you think about it? Jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, guys, let's move on to this. There's a Roadhouse remake coming. Woo! And you know what? The trailer was awesome. I really liked the trailer. I thought it was great. Like, freaking Conor McGregor and all. Even though, yeah, how you doing, fellas? Okay, whatever. I can get over that, I suppose.
love it.
The Ray loved it.
I know. I mean, he's playing exactly who he should be playing.
I guess so. But it worked. The trailer really worked, and I had a good time with it. But then, drama starts happening. The director of the film, Doug Liman, writes an op-ed piece, I believe it was in Variety, basically saying, I'm not even going to go to the premiere of my own film, and Amazon, the studio behind this movie, doesn't believe in supporting cinema. The long and the short of it was, Doug Liman basically wrote this thing as, they've been toying with us saying that, oh yeah, maybe we'll make this theatrical release. He said when he originally signed up to do the movie, it was supposed to be a theatrical release, but then Amazon took over MGM and they thought maybe it would go streaming, and then they made it go streaming. He's like, this movie should be theatrical. They're screwing everybody, blah, 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 and he's made all this noise. Well, the drama just got more thick. As Variety's written an article here, and I want to go through a few pieces of the article here, but how interesting this gets. So first of all, it gives us some history, right? In July of 2022, DeLuca and Abdi, now they were the heads of MGM Studio, okay? Left to run Warner Brothers. So they were the ones who greenlit the Roadhouse sequel. DeLuca and Abdi, who now run Warner Brothers, in 2022, they left to go over to Warner Brothers. So now MGM is sitting there without them. And the film, Roadhouse, was put into turnaround. Still, Amazon studio chief Jennifer Salke quickly salvaged it and was poised to greenlight the film with a cast that included a bunch of peoples. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Sources familiar to the negotiations say that the filmmakers and Gyllenhaal were given a choice. Make the film for $60 million and get a theatrical release, or make the film for $85 million and go streaming only. They opted for the money. They all took the money, says one knowledgeable source. Doug Liman declined to comment. All right. Doug Liman should comment and give his side to this, because this is not a good look on Doug Liman. Doug Liman coming out and saying, this was a promise, this should be theatrical, this should be theatrical, this should be, and he's right, it should be theatrical. Amazon should be putting this movie in theaters. 100% they should be. But if this is true, and notice I'm saying the word if this is true, and they actually went to the producers and the director and Gyllenhaal himself, and they were given a choice, and Amazon said, look, we can give you $60 million to produce the film, so that leaves us some money to do some marketing and push the movie out, and we can put it in theaters, or we can give you a full 85 to make your movie, and maybe a little bit more money for everybody. Everybody gets paid a little bit more, but we don't do it as a theatrical release. Then we're not going to pay the money to make it a theatrical release. We're going to make it Amazon streaming. If that is true, and if Doug Liman and Jake Gyllenhaal and the producer said, yeah, we'll take the money, I don't blame them for taking the money. That's fine. But you can't then later cry that we thought they were going to put it in theaters. So again, something smells fishy here. I would really like to hear Doug Liman comment on this story to give some more context to it. Because on its surface, and there's always more beneath the surface, but on its surface, this isn't a good look to them at all. Well, then it got even more nasty with the guy who was supposed to be producing Joel Silver. Because apparently Joel Silver was one of the guys who signed off on it. But then he started pushing, according to the story, that he wanted this thing to be put in theaters. And it got nasty. Silver continued to push for a theatrical release and grew so combative that the studio, Amazon MGM, threatened to cut ties with him. That prompted Emmanuel, CEO of WME Parent Endeavor, going on got into this thing. And anyway, got to this thing. While things continue to look rosy from the outside with all parties on board with the streaming plan, Deadline reported that UFC superstar Conor McGregor got in there, and that was problematic for a bunch of people. Then, in late 2023, Salke, the head of MGM, finally booted the producer Joel Silver from working on Roadhouse rollout for verbal abuse of staffers, including Amazon Studios and MGM marketing head Sue Kroll and Amazon film head Courtney Valenti. The studio also severed ties with Silver on the upcoming Mark Wahlberg film Play Dirty, prompting the producer to hire a high-profile litigator. Now he's suing them. And then just as the maelstrom was starting to die down, Doug Liman went nuclear with an open letter on January 24th, writing that he would boycott the film and claiming that Amazon has no interest in supporting cinema. This is a bloody mess. So, first of all, you agree, okay, we'll take the $85 million, but then you start pushing for a theatrical release. And listen, I can appreciate a producer like Joel Silver vehemently defending the idea that this movie should go to theaters. I can appreciate that. And listen, in Hollywood meetings, voices get raised, people yell at each other. That's fine. That's fine. Be passionate, vote, yell, whatever. But for them to just say, you are effing out of here. Because I don't even want to speculate what he must have said to the head of marketing and to the head of the film division for them to go, okay, now you've crossed the line, dude. And they fire him. He's out. The director's all pissed off, writing letters. There's a kind of a he said, she said happening, saying, hey, it was their choice for it to go to streaming. They took the extra money for it to go to streaming. Now, do they deny it? I'm telling you what, I have been really excited about watching this movie. But Chris, right now, I can't even look at a poster without not thinking about my excitement for the movie. I'm just thinking about what a nasty mess this whole thing is and how awful it's just gotten. I was even starting to wonder, remember, if this is a work, if they were just pretending like Doug Liman's mad and Amazon's going to go, you know what, Doug Liman's right. We're going to put it in theaters just to get media attention. But it sounds like, no, this is just a nasty mess. What do you make of this?
Oh, we haven't had something juicy like this since Don't Worry, Darling.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, man. More excited about the behind the scenes of the movie at this point. It's a real shit show. I mean, I'm not going to mince words about it. It feels very he said, she said, or he said over and over again of just everyone having their own view and everyone having their own narrative of what's gone down here. Obviously, the money situation, those kinds of terms of you can do the 60 version or the 85 version, that is a very, very telling kind of thing. If that was the deal that was offered to everyone, taking all of that money, when you take money from somebody, nothing's free. No one does things out of the goodness of their heart, particularly in this industry. And if those were the terms, that does need to be what's adhered to. That being said, the way that this movie has been presented up until this point, until we learned all the drama, did seem like it was set for a theatrical release. I still stand
when it was
by.
still when it was before Amazon took over MGM, the plan
Yeah.
was we're going to make this movie and it's going to be a
Put it
theatrical
out.
release.
And it's in that very, very sought after first opening night slot of South by Southwest, which is huge for films theatrically.
Yeah.
That's usually this kind of promise of this is a movie that you guys are going to want to see. This is something that's going to do really well in theaters. We saw that with Everywhere All at Once, Everything Everywhere All at Once. We've seen it with other films. So it is very odd that something like this that also has this huge cult classic following wouldn't have been something that was meant for going to theaters. It's a very head-scratching thing, because also, as we've talked about so many times on this show, having a theatrical release before you put it on streaming garners you more money.
Because it means it'll be more successful on streaming.
Exactly. The kind of outlier here is obviously Five Nights at Freddy's that confused all of us. Where
Yeah.
it was, how did this do so well with day and date? So it is still very confusing, and I'm really just wanting more information on everything that's going on here, because it's a lot of drama, it's a lot of harassment, it's a lot of very inappropriate workplace interactions when it comes to how this is being handled. And I just want more data before I really weigh in on it.
Yeah, because
it's a mess.
on its surface it's very confusing, right?
Yeah.
Because so we get it. Originally, the plan was when MGM was still separate from Amazon, we're going to make this Roadhouse movie, and it's going to be a theatrical movie.
Sure.
Okay. Now, before they started making it, this is important to understand. Before they started making it, Amazon took over MGM, and the film got taken from green light status and put into turnaround status. Then the new head of the studio, because then the two heads of the studio who greenlit the movie left, went to Warner Brothers. Now the new head of the studio is saying, okay, we will bring it back out. And now here's our choices. A $60 million film that goes to theaters, or an $85 million film that we put on streaming. And apparently, according to the story, and I'm sure there's more to it, they said, oh, no, we'll do it for streaming and take the extra money. Now, even if that's true, I still believe it's in Amazon's best interest to still give it a theatrical release.
Same.
I mean, they're totally within the rights to put it straight to streaming. They clearly made a deal for it to go straight to streaming. But I mean, I still think it would be in their own best interest to put it. So even though Doug Liman might end up being wrong about this argument, I still think he was right in saying this is a movie, because this isn't like Madam Web or Batgirl. This, from all reports, is a really good movie. They're saying the test scores have been through the roof. Doug Liman was saying that himself. The studio is saying they think this movie ended up way better than they were expecting it to be. Apparently, it's a really good film. So put it in theaters and then put it on streaming. So I don't really get it, but I'm sure there's going to be more drama to come out of this. We will keep our eyes on that. All right, guys. With that down, we still need to talk about the fact that we got a Superman Legacy and Fantastic Four coming out just 2 weeks apart from each other. And of course, there's a new Marvel television show coming, an animated one that is going to be hard R. They're actually calling it hardcore R. We're going to talk about that things and a few things more. But before we do, we're going to take a second to thank a couple of sponsors of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends at Mint Mobile and Fume. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of this video, Mint Mobile. On average, it takes about 30 days for a person to break their New Year's resolution. So if saving money was on your 2024 list, your odds aren't looking that great. Luckily, I have a 100% guaranteed way to save you money this year. Just switch to Mint Mobile. For a limited time, wireless plans from Mint Mobile are $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan. That's unlimited talk, text, and data for $15 a month. I've told you guys many times that after switching to Mint Mobile, I am spending less than a third on my cell bill than I used to with a major carrier. Say goodbye to your overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected overages. All Mint plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. And don't worry about having to change phones or numbers. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts. So guys, to get this new customer offer and your new 3-month unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/Campea. That's mintmobile.com/Campea. Cut your wireless bills to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Campea. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Fume. Have you ever tried to break a bad habit and it felt like you're climbing uphill? Yeah, we've been there too. But here's a breath of fresh air. Fume. It's not about giving up, it's about switching up. Fume takes your habit and simply makes it better, healthier, and a whole lot more enjoyable. Fume is an innovative, award-winning flavored air device that does just that. Instead of vapor, Fume uses flavored air. Instead of electronics, Fume is completely natural. And instead of harmful chemicals, Fume uses delicious flavors. You get it. Instead of bad, Fume is good. It's a habit you're free to enjoy and make replacing your bad habit easy. Your Fume comes with an adjustable airflow dial and is designed with movable parts and magnets for fidgeting, giving your fingers a lot to do, which is helpful for de-stressing and anxiety while breaking your habit. I'll be honest with you guys, I was a little uncertain about it until my package arrived and I tried it. I couldn't believe how perfectly balanced it is, how fun it is to have in your hands, and how great the actual flavor was. Plus, Fume just released a magnetic stand for your Fume, so there's no more losing it around the house. So start the year off right with the good habit by going to tryfume.com/Campea and getting the journey pack today. Fume is giving listeners of the show 10% off when they use my code Campea to help make starting the good habit that much easier. And thank you to our friends at Mint Mobile and Fume for sponsoring today's episode. Okay, guys, with that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Now, of course, the other day they announced that we got a Fantastic Four release date, right? Well, a new Fantastic Four release is going to be in July. But what kind of some people miss is that by opening up in July, that's the same as a couple of other big movies, including a big superhero movie. As a matter of fact, the reemergence of the brand new DCU with Superman Legacy. And that is the topic of today's Mint Mobile Hotline question of the day. Listen, guys, if you have a question for our show and you'd like to hear your voice on our show, go ahead and call our Mint Mobile Hotline anytime, 24/7 at 951-268-4259. And today's question is about Superman and Fantastic Four. Check it out.
Hey, John, this is Dalton from Mississippi. I was wondering what you guys thought about Fantastic Four and Superman Legacy releasing in the same month. I know you said Superman won't do great at the box office, but do you think having to compete with Fantastic Four is going to make it that much harder? Or I don't know, maybe Superman does well and Fantastic Four has to keep up with Superman. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks. Have a great day.
All right, Dalton, thanks a lot for calling that in, man. And yeah, I mean, it's now opening just a couple of weeks away from Superman Legacy. The actual release dates are right here. So we see Superman Legacy is opening up on July 11th, and then just 2 weeks later, Fantastic Four open up. And is this going to hurt or hinder the two films? Well, there's a couple of ways of looking at it. The first thing I want to throw out here, though, is this. I don't expect... Let me try that again. I expect that both of these films are going to be good. I have a lot of hope. I mean, yeah, they might end up being bad. I understand that. They might end up being terrible. But my expectations right now is that they're going to be great. Obviously, I love the directors on both of them. I really like the casts on both of them. I like the writers on both of them. So I'm going in expecting them to be great, understanding they might end up being terrible. But I think they'll be really good. Understanding that I think they're going to end up being quite good, I'm still not expecting monstrous box office from either of them. Not for their first films. Now, remember, Superman Legacy, the last Superman movie made like 600 something million at the box office. But since then, since Man of Steel, the DCEU died and died ugly. With 5 years of none of their films being able to make over $400 million until Aquaman 2 finally cracked the $400 million mark. But it's been ugly. Some of them under 200 million. It's just been the audience abandoned the DCEU. So Superman is going to have to be that film that comes out first, the first penguin to jump in the water, and kind of try to establish a new reputation of excellence, right? It's about rehabilitation right now. So Superman's going to come out. There's still going to be a lot of people who are going to doubt DC, understandably. There's going to be a lot of people who are going to doubt, who are still kind of thought, I'm not ready yet to give DC another try. So Superman's number one job is to come out and be a great movie, to start the rehabilitation so that the next DCU movie can do better and the one after that can do better than that. So I think Superman Legacy can be a success. I just don't expect a lot of money from it. Fantastic Four, kind of same thing. Number one, Marvel isn't in the best place right now. At least they're not as healthy as they used to be. Deadpool 2 might help turn that around, but we'll see. Or Deadpool 3, I should say, but we'll see. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. There have been 4 Fantastic Four movies, if you want to count the Corman one. If you don't, fine. We've been 3 Fantastic Four movies. All of them sucked, and they didn't do great. And the reality is not a lot of people, I mean, just a few years ago, Fantastic Four, the comic book, even got canceled. I mean, not a lot of people, hardcore comic book fans notwithstanding, not a lot of people are enamored with the Fantastic Four. So while I think this could be the new cornerstone for the MCU, I don't expect that the first movie is going to make $1 billion. I think it's going to be about building things up so that the second one is even better, right? There's a plan. You got to look long term. You can't just look short term as the next movie, but you got to think long term and building up towards something. So that being said, that I don't expect either to do gangbusters. There's 2 different ways of looking at the question. Can these things do well financially when they're just 2 weeks apart, or is it going to hurt them? There's 2 different ways you can look at it. On the one hand, you can say, well, just look at what happened in 2023. Oppenheimer and Barbie literally opened on the same day. And one of them made well over $1 billion, and one of them almost made $1 billion. So you could look at it that way. And Superman and Fantastic Four are literally 2 weeks apart. They're 2 weeks separated. The other way you could look at it is say, okay, yeah, the Barbenheimer example, but those were 2 radically different movies going after radically different audiences. This is Superman and Fantastic Four. These are 2 movies that are going after the same demographic. And that could cause a problem. Another way of looking at it is this. If people go out to see Superman Legacy first on July 11th, and if it's as good as we hope it is, they might be revving to get back to the theater to see another comic book movie. Mm-hmm. And they got another one coming in just 2 weeks, and that could really help Fantastic Four. Or, conversely, if Superman Legacy sucks, which I don't expect it will, but anything's possible, then people might get a real bad taste in their mouth and going, yeah, I'm not going back out to the theaters again until we see the next comic book movie. I mean, so there's a whole bunch of wild dynamics here. I will say this, though. On an all other things being equal basis, do I think Superman Legacy or Fantastic Four will make the more money in the month of July? I'm going to say Fantastic Four. It just has more going for it. Like, as much as the MCU is not in its healthiest state right now, it's still in great shape compared to the rubble of the DCEU that Superman Legacy is going to try to emerge from, like a phoenix rising from the ashes. So I'm going to say Fantastic Four on that. So that's my guess at any rate. Chris, we got, if you're looking forward to these movies, July 2025. But by the way, we also got Jurassic. Apparently, I'm sure that's going to move because they lost their director. But there's a couple of other big things coming out too. But with these 2 pillar comic book movies, which one does better with the audience, do you think?
Well, and we've got Comic-Con in July always, too.
Right.
So it's going to be a huge kind of arms race for DC and Marvel. For me, I am a Marvel girl. I know that I make no claims to be otherwise. I would put my eggs in the basket of Fantastic Four, mostly because of the star power behind it. I think Pedro Pascal, Vanessa Kirby, just Quinn, and obviously Ebon are all very big rising stars, and I think that'll help a lot, too. Also, you had a tremendous comic book come out for the Fantastic Four just in October of 2023, Alex Ross's Full Circle. If you want a breakdown on that, you can go back and watch our weekly hero on it back in the day when Rob and I were doing that show still. But it's an amazing comic that I think hopefully is what's fueling a lot of this, because it feels like that kind of atomic age, super fun sci-fi. And I think that movie has so much potential if they lean into that. One of the things that we've talked about with superhero movies that DC honestly has done a much better job of then is playing with genre within the superhero world, right? Joker, as much as I don't enjoy that film, it is a psychological study of a character. The Batman is a gritty film noir, Seven-esque film that happens to have a superhero character in it, right? When you play with genre within the superhero realm, I think that's a much more fun, cool thing to do. And if Fantastic Four does that, they could have an excellent hit on their hands. And that's where I think DC has the upper hand ultimately in that they have been willing to play around with things. They've been willing to play with tone. They've been willing to make things maybe not as primary colors, fun, happy times, maybe make it for the kids sometimes. They've been willing to take risks. And I think that's when they faltered, right? Is a lot of their stuff then started becoming mimics of Marvel. And when they've done their own things, when they've done things in a kind of Elseworlds kind of way, that's when they've really thrived. So if Marvel kind of, for once, steals from them and goes, hey, what if we make this really, really pulpy sci-fi? What if we make this feel like it's from the 1960s or 70s? Well, if we lean into that kind of Kirby, Alex Ross vibe, I think this one could do really, really well and make a ton of money. Plus, as much as Marvel has suffered from people not really believing in a lot of their movies as well, it did have some hits like Guardians. It did have wonderful shows every now and then. DC really has been lacking lately, and I feel like people have lost their faith in DC more than Marvel. Of course, that's just my own personal opinion, and maybe people are going to get really excited about having a Superman back in theaters after all of this time. But I would bet on a Fantastic Four personally.
Yeah. And by the way, we're not talking about which one we think will be the better movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're a long ways away from that. But I think right now, I think Fantastic Four is the one who pulls it. Now, then the question would be, if they're both great and both of them have sequels come out at the same time, which one makes more then? Well, all bets
Sure.
are off at that point.
I'm hoping it's just, that Barbenheimer kind of thing. I want both of these movies to succeed. I want both of them to create that momentum. And I want us to have good superhero movies. I think it's so silly when people don't root for these movies to do well. I mean, I think it's so
not silly. It's plain moronic.
Yeah,
it's really stupid.
Even though I gravitate towards Marvel because that's what I grew up with, I love DC. And those characters are iconic and wonderful. I don't want Gunn's universe to fail. I don't want anyone else's movies to do poorly. It's like being on a plane and thinking that your pilot's an asshole, so you hope the plane crashes. I'm on that plane. I don't want to crash. I want us to have a nice, fun ride.
Well, it's like Rob always says, if you're a real film fan, you should hope every movie that comes out is great. I mean, I go into every movie. I went into Madam Web hoping that it would prove everybody wrong. That I would come out going, you know what, that wasn't bad. I mean, we should all hope every movie is great, but
The problem is when you have people that they need to have a team, they need to have an identity.
Oh, the tribalism.
So they need to have an identity, and it's like,
it's
so
pathetic.
your identity is this person's like production. Get a life.
Yeah.
See, here's the thing, and I've talked about this a lot over the years. The tribalism in film fandom is just like so stupid. Like, it's pathetic. Like, there's nothing wrong with saying I am a DC fan. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you start defining your fandom by what you hate, see, I'm a DC fan. That means I hate Marvel and anything that they do. Oh, okay, then you're just pathetic. I mean, it's fine if you just, no, naturally, I've watched every Marvel movie. I've hoped I would enjoy every Marvel movie, but none of them have worked for me. That's totally fair. And vice versa. Like, Marvel fans are like, I'm a Marvel fan. That's great. And so I hope DC fails. What? Do you think that's going to help your Marvel movies at all? If the DC movies do bad? Like, I'll never understand that kind
so
of
weird to me.
Pathetic tribalism that has been a part of fandom. Anyway, with that down, guys, let's move on to this, shall we? One of the shows that I don't actually have a lot of interest in that's coming out, that a lot of people seem to have a bunch of interest in, is the upcoming Marvel animated show, Marvel Zombies. Now, there was a time not long ago where Kevin Feige said publicly, we're going to let Deadpool be rated R, but nothing else is going to be rated R. Well, that clearly isn't true anymore. Kevin Feige's clearly had a change of heart because, well, Echo wasn't rated R. It was technically TVMA, but I guarantee you if Echo was a movie in theaters, it would have been PG-13. But whatever. They called it R-rated. Now we're hearing from the director of Blade that they've given him the go-ahead to make Blade R. And now we're hearing from the director of this upcoming Marvel Zombies that it's not just R, it's hardcore R. This comes from the folks over at the director right. Speaking with Marvel.com, Marvel Zombies director Brian Andrews discussed his newest Disney Plus project, specifically with it being confirmed to have an R rating ahead of its release, bluntly noting that the show is rated TVMA, the television equivalent of an R. He described the series as quote-unquote hardcore and held nothing back in saying people die and they die rough. He said this, well, it's going to be pretty awesome. I mean, it's TVMA, it's hardcore. People die and they die rough. So there's still some laughs to be found here and there. It's not all completely horrible. And it goes into the part that he goes on to talk a little bit about the fact that, yeah, we're going to set, there's going to be some fun stuff. And then that stuff is going to be horribly taken away. And okay, now remember, this is animated. I mean, we're becoming accustomed to seeing hardcore, gross violence in animation. I mean, to look no further than any episode of Invincible, right? Any episode of Invincible. You're seeing people get their literal intestines pulled out and their eyes popping out of their sockets and arms ripped out of their sockets. I mean, it's become the thing. It's now the thing to do. But it's totally new ground for something like Marvel to do. And so it will be kind of it. Look, I'm not going to pretend that I'm now excited about Marvel Zombies, Zombie Marvels. I'm not going to pretend that I'm suddenly interested in Marvel Zombies. I'm not tremendously interested in it. And telling me that, ooh, guts are going to come out, that doesn't make me more excited. I see lots of stuff where guts get ripped out. That's fine. But it's still pretty interesting that they're willing to go down that route. Anyway, Chris, as a fan of animation and stuff like that, is this significant to you? Like hearing the director saying, like, listen, people are going to die and they die rough, and this is hardcore. What do you make of this?
You know, I just said I'm a huge Marvel fan. I am a huge zombie genre fan. I am a diehard animation fan. I hate Marvel Zombies as a comic. I don't like it. The first time I saw a zombie Wolverine, I was like, this is so stupid. This is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. But hey, I guess the super intense violence could make this more fun for some people. Because again, we're playing with genre. And I do commend anyone who does that. When you take something and go, hey, you know what? What if we take our tried and true heroes and instead go play with horror and see how that pans out? I just don't think it's going to be my cup of tea. I'm going to absolutely give it the good old college try. I'm going to watch it and close my eyes anytime somebody's eye gets gouged out or eaten or something disgusting. But if this moves the needle for you, that's great. I feel like this is what you have to do with this kind of property, though, to get people more excited. That's not to say that violence is always the answer in terms of making something more watchable or divisive or interesting, but I think for something like this, where you're promising, hey, we're going to have these characters in a whole new light that you've never seen, especially after that What If episode, you gotta go full body horror, full horrific deaths, and that could be really interesting for some folks. I'm interested to see what they do with it, but I'm not particularly jazzed. X-Men 97 is the thing I'm way more excited than this. I want good storytelling. If people are getting dismembered, you got to do it also more interesting than the other shows that are doing it, than The Boys, than Invincible, than other series that are out there.
Speaking of, Invincible had a really good use of the really horrific violence because we hadn't seen it. When you watch Invincible episode 1, you don't really get too outrageously gross, but at the very end, when Omni-Man betrays, what do they call it? Guardians of the Globe? That's the name of the superhero team, right? Guardians of the Globe?
I believe so.
When he betrays Guardians of the Globe, the graphic nature of the violence multiplies the drama that is, the betrayal that is happening. Like, not only is this guy who was, they thought their friend, their comrade, their ally, Earth's hero, Omni-Man, but now he's not just betraying them, like he is graphically, horrifically killing them. It adds to the drama of it, right? Too many storytellers, filmmakers, showrunners don't understand that. And they go, well, just have his intestines pour out, like without attaching it to something to heighten the atmosphere.
When you see a hero, a global hero, someone who is beloved, kind of when you have the same thing on The Boys of the Seven are supposed to be these incredible, wonderful people who everyone loves. There are action figures of them. Kids worship them. When you have that horrific violence paired with that lack of actual heroicism in their life, it means more. The same thing when you have something like Invincible, where it's a very Peter Parker-esque story. It's a teenage boy who feels so invisible, who feels like he can't live up to his father, who just worships his dad. And then you see that horrific violence.
Yeah.
It's much more impactful.
The Boys had a similar thing in their episode 1 where it's this idyllic world of superheroes, stuff like that. And then, what's our main character's name?
Huey?
Quaid's Huey, thank you. Huey, his girlfriend steps onto the street from the sidewalk and she's obliterated by a train running through, right? Like that type of graphic, like her organs are flying all over the place. It added to the moment, like it's added to the stun and the shock. It's just, when it's used right, it can be really, really special. Let's see if Zombie or Marvel Zombies can do that. All right. With that down, guys, it's time to get to the most important part of the show, which is taking your live comments and questions. Now, before we do, we're going to take a quick second and thank another sponsor of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends at Harry's. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Harry's. You know, guys, in order to start the John Campea Show, I had to leave my high-paying corporate job in order to set myself up to be happier and enjoy more personal success. Because sometimes to get what you want, you have to challenge the status quo and blaze your own trail. And that's exactly what the folks at Harry's did. You see, at Harry's, they saw customers getting ripped off by questionable products in the shaving industry and decided to do something better. Harry's decided to pave their own road by making beautifully designed razors for a fraction of the price of the other big brands. Exceptional products, honest prices. That's Harry's. I have fallen in love with Harry's, from their foaming shaving gel that feels just luxurious on the skin to their incredible razor that feels just as good in the hand as it does going over your skin. They've got rich, lathering, skin-softening body wash in scents like redwood, wildlands, and stone. You see, Harry's provides German-engineered blades made in their own factory that stay sharp longer. You can get a 5-blade razor, weighted handle, foaming shave gel, and a travel cover for just $3 at harrys.com/Campea. Don't settle for the status quo. Blaze your own trail with Harry's. Get started with a $13 trial set for just $3 at harrys.com/Campea. That's harrys.com/Campea for a $3 trial set. And thank you to our friends at Harry's for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with that down, let's get over to your questions here, shall we? Chris, what do we got up first?
From Damaris Love. Hey, Sony, I loved Madam Web so much that I decided to invest in restoring the Snyderverse. Say John want help recruit Henry Cavill? Oh, I think we're missing a few words here.
Boy, yeah, there's grammar. Yeah, there's and obviously a little bit of sarcasm in there, understandably. Yeah,
Sorry, Damaris.
I just can't believe, like, what executive or creative sat down and watched this a few months ago, or like 6, and said, you know what, man, this is turning out good. Can't wait to get this into theaters. Like, at some point, David Zaslav, like, it just seems like they're on a personal mission to prove David Zaslav was right. I mean, it's just, they really should have scrapped this movie. They 100% should have, because now not only is it going to just completely tank at the box office, it's done more damage to the reputation of this Spider-Verse. They have just damaged the potential and the prospects for Kraven even more. Not that Kraven has everybody buzzing about it, but now it's hurt it even more. They should have scrapped this movie. They 100% should have. All right, what's next?
From James Wheeler, who sends in a $20 super chat.
Thank you, James.
Hello, everyone. John, as a Massachusetts guy, I also loved the Dunkin' commercial. So self-mocking, which is a Boston trait.
It was like I think it might be my favorite Super Bowl commercial of all time, especially the extended cut. If you guys haven't seen it, there's like literally a 5-minute extended cut of it, and it's so good.
Listen, my mom is from Dorchester. She loves Ben Affleck. She loves that Casey Affleck spot on SNL where he's talking about going to Dunkin' and having some parliaments. She despises this spot as much as me. Oh, I can't stand it.
So good.
Stand it.
Can't stand it.
Can't stand it.
Where are my khakis? All right, what's next?
From Sam Fisher. Honestly, the most unbelievable thing about the Fantastic Four casting is the idea that Sue would ever leave Pedro Pascal for Tenoch Huerta. LOL.
Yeah, I mean, that's not going to happen in the movies.
Probably not.
I listen, again, I think were any of the people they cast, would they have been my number one choices? No, but hardly ever does that ever happen. But it's a great cast. You've got like literally award-nominated, award-winning talent in there. Eben Moss obviously just coming off his Emmy win. Everybody loves the dude who played, what was Eddie's last name again?
Munson.
Eddie Munson.
Munson. Everybody loves him. Pedro Pascal was just nominated for Best Actor in a television series, with the show being nominated for Best Drama Series. Vanessa Kirby is awesome. It's a great cast. And, you know, look, the movie might still be bad, but it won't be from lack of talent. That's for damn sure. All right, what's next?
From David Aaron, 2024 marks 50 years since the introduction of Wolverine. Hugh Jackman
Wow.
has played the character for 24 of them. Hard to argue his portrayal is, quote, inaccurate, fitting that we get a new movie with him.
I mean, some of you guys watching the show may not have even been born when they cast Hugh Jackman to play Wolverine.
Oh, God.
But I remember, and I remember how angry people were. This guy looks nothing like Wolverine. That's not Logan. He was a Broadway show dancing song man, this Australian Hugh Jackman pretty boy. Everybody was so mad. They were like, I can't remember the name. There was this heavy metal singer that everybody thought should have been Wolverine for some reason. I can't remember. Was it Danzig? Or maybe it was something else. Anyway, a lot of people at the time thought this somebody else should have been. And no, actually, Rick is saying in the live chat, it was Danzig. That's right. A lot of people thought it should be Danzig because he looks like him. Anyway. But now today, when a lot of people think of Wolverine, we think Hugh Jackman. It's inseparable to think of Wolverine. That's why it's going to be a big challenge for Marvel to move on with Wolverine and bring in a new Wolverine, because people have literally lived their entire lives knowing Hugh Jackman is Wolverine. It's kind of crazy. So they're going to have a very, very, very big task ahead of them. All right, what's next?
From Whoo Boy, Madam Web. Did you see Harloff's review for Madam Web? He's been under the weather, but because of that, he looks like the movie took away his will to live.
I haven't seen Christian's review of it.
Oh,
No.
no.
I have not, but I know Christian's sensibilities pretty well. Now, Christian and I don't agree on every movie. We agree on a bunch, but not every movie. But I know Christian well enough that when I see a movie, I have a pretty good sense if he's going to like it or not. And yeah, like there's no surprise that he didn't like it. All right, what's next?
Who Boy, Madam Web goes on to say, quote, if you take on the responsibility, great power will come. Wow, so clever, so subversive.
Yeah, I didn't bring that up in the review, and I probably should have. We all know the classic Spider-Man line, with great power comes great responsibility. And this Peruvian jungle man dressed like he's just walked out of New York. It's like, if you accept responsibility, great power will come. It's like, really? Is that how it works? This movie's so bad. It's so bad. I mean, look, again, I hate crossing the line. I don't ever want to cross the line and just be mean for the sake of being mean or anything like that, because I'm sure the two dudes that wrote this movie and wrote Gods of Egypt and wrote Dracula Untold and wrote The Last Witch Hunter and wrote Morbius, I'm sure they're probably wonderful guys who are just living their dream, doing something I'll never do, write like 5 screenplays that get produced into major motion pictures and just probably doing the best they can. And I don't want to come across as mean. But they are, Chris, and I say this with no hyperbole, they are the absolute worst writers in Hollywood who are getting work.
Oh, no.
I'm sure there are worse writers in Hollywood who
Somebody
don't
knows
get any
something
work.
about someone.
But they need to find their real calling, because it ain't writing.
I still have to go see this hideous movie, and I'm so sad.
So bad. It's so bad. Anyway, all right. What's next?
Getting real excited. David Aaron. Oh, wow. An R-rated Marvel show? That's great. Oh, it's zombies. Never mind.
Part of the reason that I say that I'm not all that jazzed for Marvel Zombies is, you guys know, in general, I'm over and bored of zombies. I was over and bored of zombies like even before Walking Dead started. I still enjoyed Walking Dead for the first 5 or 6 seasons. But I mean, there's nothing new under the sun. Like, after you had the brilliance of Train to Busan, and after you had the absolute brilliance of Shaun of the Dead, and 1 or 2 of the earlier, more serious zombie movies, it's like they're all the same, really, essentially. It's tough to get. Oh well, I'll also give Warm Bodies a pass.
Warm Bodies is
Warm Bodies,
great.
yeah, because it was such a different take on the whole zombie genre. But it takes something special, like a Train to Busan, to kind of get me re-energized for something that's a zombie topic. Anyway, all right, what's next?
From Eric Andre the Giant. My senior relatives like to tease me at weddings, saying things like, "You'll be next." They stopped once I started doing the same to them at funerals.
That's pretty good. I like that. That's funny. You'll be next. All right, what's next?
From Jake the Snake. Lord forgive me for what I'll be doing to that bucket.
The Dune 2 bucket.
Oh, Jake, no.
Yeah.
Jake, your snake, no.
So
It's business time.
there were,
Right.
I don't know if you saw these, Chris, but yesterday, first reactions from the first public screening in Paris of Dune 2 came out. And like, it was a gush of masterpiece.
Easy.
I don't want to hear
Easy
that
with your
word with
words.
this
I
popcorn
feel
bucket.
sorry. I feel sorry for any other sci-fi film that comes out in the next decade.
Mm-hmm.
Perfection. I'm only happy I was alive to watch this. Like just
I mean,
that kind of stuff.
Granted, they were all given the popcorn.
They were
bucket
given the popcorn
before-
Yeah, they were all
bucket.
using
Yeah.
the popcorn bucket at the time.
And that's why they were gushing.
But then they did the London premiere yesterday. And the reactions coming out of there, all similar.
Okay.
All same in line, stuff like that. Very, very, very excited for this. All right, what's next?
From Miguel, sending in a $20 super chat.
Thank you, Miguel.
Ari, my Deadpool 3 comment saying that would have to choose between saving his family or the entire Marvel Universe. I say that because we're heading to Secret Wars, where characters had to choose which universes to destroy for their own survival. Thoughts?
We don't even know that's going to be part of the Secret Wars movie. What are you talking about, John? Listen, the reality is both DC, Marvel, especially Marvel, and Fox, when they were still making the movies, they did not stick to the namesake of the titles they were adapting. Like, X-Men Days of Future Past, which to me is a top 10 greatest comic book movie ever made. I love that movie. But that wasn't X-Men Days of Future Past, the comic book. I mean, there's some similarities. Age of Ultron was not the Age of Ultron story from the comic book. I mean, definitely some similarities. Just because they're calling this Secret Wars, don't expect it. I'm not saying it absolutely 100% won't be. I'm just saying set your expectations. Don't expect that it's just going to be the Secret Wars storyline, either of the two that they did. Don't just expect it to be the Secret Wars storyline. They could be heavily adapted. It could be very different. Civil War was very different, fundamentally different than the Civil War comic book story. So just because something happens in the comic book stories of the namesake, don't expect them to translate it onto the big screen. They might, they could. I'm just saying don't expect it. That's all. All right, what's next?
From Storm Dragon 771, please let us hear your favorite Madam Web meme. Mine's It's Webbin' Time.
I haven't heard any of the memes yet.
I think people are too depressed to even make a joke.
No.
Damn.
Like, here's my meme. My meme of Madam Web is, it fucking sucks. That's my meme. Does that count as a meme? Do the kiddies call that a meme? Not really sure. Yeah, it really, that's a good one. Madam Web just, Madam Web is just a blind lady strapped to a chair. Don't screw it up. Well, they found a way.
Oh boy.
They
They had-
found a
they had
way.
One job to do.
They said it couldn't be done, so we did it. Anyway, all right, what's next?
From Andy. Oh, I'll go up to Karen Potts, I guess, first.
Let's see.
Oh, there we go. Andy. I came to Ash Wednesday Mass late, last 10 minutes, and to Madam Web on time, and regretted not doing the reverse. I missed out on that holy ash from my Mass, but saw this superhero bash. That was ass.
It's so funny. My extended family, my married family, my mother-in-law is very, very devout Catholic woman. And so it's so charming and endearing when, like, I hear her speaking to Anne and just assuming, oh, like you're ready to participate in Ash Wednesday, right? Sure, Mom. Yeah, don't forget, don't eat meat. Sure, Mom. Now I'm a good Italian boy. I grew up Catholic. And all that kind of stuff, like Ash Wednesday. So it's just funny you bring it there. We were talking about Ash Wednesday the other day. Yeah, definitely. An Ash Wednesday Mass in Latin would have been more entertaining for you than Madam Web.
Woof.
All right, what's next?
Around this time of year, John, sorry, because I was raised Catholic too. I feel like only Catholic kids are the people who like eat fillet of fish. Like that was like the only reason why McDonald's
That was the
had
go-to,
it.
right?
Yeah.
Like you can eat filet of fish.
Where you could still
Woohoo!
go to McDonald's with your friends and be like, yeah, I can still go get a toy and everything.
That I was
and
convinced
Jesus
that's the
won't
whole
hate me.
reason it was on their menu.
Yeah.
Is because they knew them Catholics were going to come in here and
Because
do
Logan and I
that.
were talking about this, and he was like, "What human being would ever eat that?" I was like, "I still to this day."
Okay, wait a minute. Okay, you know
Oh,
what?
those are fighting words.
I call into
so
question
good.
a lot of Logan's. I love Logan; he's a great guy.
Yeah.
But I call into question
The
his,
fillet of fish.
just most of his judgment calls.
That's fair.
And I love the filet of fish.
I'm a fan.
You
I'm a
know, or
fan.
whatever.
I'm gonna make him watch a clip of Helen Mirren eating a filet of fish.
And then he'll turn
Ruin
it
it
around.
forever.
I don't know why, but whenever filet of fish gets brought up, our buddy Ryan, for those of you who don't know, if you follow me on social media, he's the one that everybody always thinks is Ben Affleck. But our buddy Ryan, I have never met anybody who has worse luck. Like, remember that Martin Short movie, Dumb Luck? Mm-hmm. He's kind of that. Like, he just has really bad luck, right? Like, he buys this new truck gets run into in the parking lot, or like just always happen. And I just remember we went to McDonald's and we ordered this stuff, and like I ordered quarter pounder or a chicken sandwich, whatever. Ryan orders a filet of fish. He literally opens the bag and then looks down the wrap, this seems light. He opens the wrapper and it's just a bun with some tartar sauce on it. Like there's nothing in it.
I was like, you just eat it at that point.
Yeah, just eat the bun at that point.
Just give life what it wants.
And we're like,
Man.
of course that's what happened to Ryan.
That's the most Charlie Brown thing that could
know.
happen to a human.
So depressing.
It was just a
man.
bun.
I just saw this one. This one got me.
What's that?
Early 2000s superhero movies are underrated. Look at the bottom left.
Hey, the movie takes place in 2003.
There you go.
Takes place in 2003. All right. What's next?
From Karen Potts. I would love to hear a Madam Web spoiler review. And when are you guys going to check out Bob Marley's One Love? Also, and also, have you checked out X-Men 97?
So we
the
talked
trailer.
about X-Men 97, the trailer already. Yeah, I've been... When they first did the presentation, Ziggy Marley came out on stage at CinemaCon last year and did the big presentation for One Love. It didn't really super appeal to me, but the trailers have slowly kind of won me over. And I'm like, you know what? I want to see this.
I saw it last night. I liked it.
What did you think about it?
Yeah, I really liked it. I mean, the performances were great. It doesn't, this not like spoilers or anything, but it doesn't, this is what I was glad about. It didn't just take a linear story. Like here he is as a kid and a teen. What they did was they used some of his childhood and teenage years as flashbacks. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But really it was like, it was more about the creation of the album Exodus. And then how that culminated then to his Concert for Peace in 1978 in Jamaica. So I just really enjoyed it. And I thought it was great pacing. It wasn't over 2 hours, it was an hour and 45 minutes. So
Nice.
it moved. And yeah, you just felt engaged the whole time.
I'm glad you like it because the last I checked, it had like a 45%.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And I talked to a couple of people that didn't like it. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you liked it.
I can imagine if it's not what you were thinking was going to come out of the biopic, you'd be like, well, it didn't do what I wanted to do. I will say, I kind of wish it had subtitles because they have thick Jamaican accents and a good third of the movie. I'm like, I don't know what they just said.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, but
All right.
it was very authentic.
what's next?
From Clipchamp Razor. Could Marvel make a case that Sony is misusing their Spider-Man license and devaluing their characters by making films like Madam Web and Morbius?
Nope. It's tough shit. It's like we were talking about in the Roadhouse
the
thing.
tough shit clause.
You took the money. You took the money, Marvel. You took the money. So no, there's no case for them to be made. It's belongs to them as long as they're not breaking any rules. As long as they're not violating an agreement, it's too bad, sucker. Yeah, that's what it is. Because listen, even if you try to argue that, Sony can just say we made better Spider-Man movies than you ever did. We made a Spider-Man movie that won Oscars. Like we made Into the Spider-Verse, Across the Spider-Verse, right? So like even if there was an argument to be made there, it would get shot down right away. So, but that's really neither here nor there. The bottom line is no. There's no saying we get to take it back if we don't think you're doing a good job with the quality of the movies. There's nothing about that in the contracts. All right, what's next?
From Derek Pierce. Hey, crew. I recently shared an image of some Lego brickheads I built of you to your Instagram handles. Did you get them, and what are your thoughts?
I did not. I very rarely read Instagram. Like I post Instagram more than I look at Instagram or even look at the messages in Instagram. So I have not seen it yet myself. Have you seen them, Ray?
No, but I want to check it out because lately I've been going to this new place that just opened up down the street, Bricks and Minifigs, and I just look at all the extra Lego pieces they have there. Like if I need like an extra piece, you don't have to buy a box anymore of
That's
stuff.
nice.
You could just buy it piece by piece to have like a whole table.
Really?
They even got a whole table with body parts and different heads, and you can make your own little guy if you wanted to.
Very
Derek,
interesting.
if you sent them in our DMs too, a lot of times if we're not following each other, it'll show like click this image to see it. I don't click those images.
Because
I have been
She doesn't-
burned before.
She doesn't want to see it.
So if
That
you
tracks.
if you DM it, I'm not going to see it. I know that for me at least. I don't
I'll
know.
check it
So
out
if you
for
tag us in other stuff, though, we'll see it in like a tag.
All right. What's next?
From Andy again. Hi, John. Did you know Fandango is premiering the first 2 episodes of Shogun early next week in select theaters? Closest for you would be the AMC at the Block.
I think you might have to do that.
I did not know this,
I had a suspicion they'd do it.
and I will be there.
Yeah.
you will.
Ray, if you can find all that information for me, because the Block is just in Orange. It's only like 25 minutes from us. Now, I'll definitely go to that.
I mean, if they're doing it like near me in Burbank, then I'll see it. I'll do it.
All right. Guys, I'm so dying to see this thing. All right. What's next?
Wrong one. There we go.
From Christopher Brick. Oh, sorry. From Gene Check. So I guess your reaction after the movie was, God madam it.
That's not bad. That's not bad. I'll give you that one. All right. What's next?
From Christopher Brickner. For Madam Web, Sony can't even make money on merchandising for Madam Web, as they sold the merchandising rights to Spider-Man back to Disney in 2011.
Would anyone buy anything from it?
But I don't know if that applies to like in-movie merchandise. Like if you were to sell like the Madam Web special cups or something like that. I'm not sure if that would appeal, but it doesn't matter. Look, the business model is to make money with the movies. And this ain't going to do it. They should have just scrapped this thing. All right, what's next?
From Jack Fern. Hi, John and Chris. I have high-functioning autism. Thanks for having a show and community as accepting and into movies as I am.
Oh, well, thank you so much for being here and being part of our community, Jack. We really appreciate that, man. Thanks for sharing. All right, what's next?
From Sin Vendetta. The X-Men animated series was one of my favorite cartoons I watched as a kid, and I was beyond excited to watch the X-Men 97 trailer this morning. We'll definitely do a rewatch of the original series before March 20th. Excited.
I might do a rewatch of like the last season because there were like 5 seasons of it. So that might be a little bit much for me, but I remembered it a lot. Like, cause I was also like more, like when the X-Men was coming out, it was right when I was really getting into their comics as well. I mean, it was very different from their comics at the time, but yeah, I'm going to do a little bit, but not as wide as a rewatch as you are, but a more limited rewatch. All right, what's next?
From Connor Mullins. Your Madam Web out of the theater review absolutely killed me, John. Thanks for the good laugh.
Oh, I think I got Ray going because we went outside. Ray was holding the camera for me, and I decided to start off with, guys, just got a theater scene Madam Web. Now, I know there's a lot of bad reviews, but you know what? I think this movie is better than people are giving it credit for. I said the action was good, the blah, blah. I said, you're not believing me, are you?
Yeah.
This movie's so bad.
I just figured you wanted the 17%.
Yeah, maybe I was one of the 17. Is it 17%? Is
Yeah, I
it
think
that
so.
high?
I'm going to check again
Is it
now.
that high?
I honestly, I'll be surprised. I'm surprised if it's that high. Like I mean, listen, all movies are subjective, right? Somebody
Oh, no, you're 15%.
dropped to 15.
Whoa.
Okay. Like somebody got mad at me in the comments. Well, that happens every day, so it doesn't matter. But someone got mad at me in the comments specifically for the fact that I end the out of theater review saying, don't bother going to see this. And somebody got mad and said, John, you say that movies are subjective. How could then you shouldn't be telling people they shouldn't go see it? I was like, look, of course all movies are subjective. And of course there are going to be people, because movies are subjective, are going to watch this and get a lot more out of it than I did and maybe even enjoy it. I said, but part of my job is not just to give my opinion, but is to give a recommendation. Because going to a movie is an investment of money and even more valuable, time. It's an investment of time and money. So I give my recommendation. Now, film fans will then see my recommendation and hear other people's recommendations and watch the trailers and read reviews and then make up their own mind. But it's my responsibility to put my part out there. I thought the movie was bad. My recommendation is don't waste your time on it. Now, that's just something I can put out there, and then what people do with that is up to them. It doesn't take away from the subjectivity of film, not at all. But I don't think there's a very good chance you're going to like it. You might. Certain people will, absolutely, and there's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, I got to give my honest opinion, and I got to give my recommendation. So, and then you got to take that for what it's worth. Okay, what's next?
From
Christopher
Brickner, Spider-Man is the profitable merchandise superhero ever, making hundreds of millions of money a year. Sony said selling the rights to Disney was a mistake.
I didn't know they ever actually had. Now that I think about it, I'm not sure Sony ever actually even had the marketing rights to it. Not the marketing rights, the merchandising rights. I'm not even sure they ever did. I'm not sure that they didn't. I'm honestly saying I'm not sure they did in the first place. That's kind of interesting. All right, what's next?
From Clipchamp Razor, do you think actors sign onto Sony Marvel movies thinking they're signing on to MCU films? Seems like Matt Smith had that confusion. Matt Smith.
No,
I assume,
because a 3-year-old will know the difference. You have agents and reps and managers, and no, there would be no confusion unless you're an absolute bumbling idiot. There is no confusion of what movie you just signed on for. So no, they don't sign up for them confused. They sign up for it because it's a paycheck, probably a pretty respectable paycheck, maybe the biggest paycheck they'll get in their careers. That's why they sign up for them, and people will see it. So there's that. All right, what's next?
From Madam Web. Madam Web Rotten Tomatoes rating now dropped below Morbius.
Yeah, again, the one thing I will say for it is that I think it's a little bit better than Morbius, but that's as far as I'll go. So not by much. All right, what's next?
From James Germain. Hey guys, Resident Alien is back. Hurrah!
Well,
Yay.
Really? It's back? Oh my God, I really like that
It's
show.
a fun show.
Yeah, I thought it was done.
Well,
I thought it was done. I didn't think they were making it anymore. I mean, I didn't follow it really closely.
apparently it premiered yesterday, season 3.
Oh my God, I got to go get caught up. I love that. I think the show's really clever. All right, what's next?
From Mighty Tank, Kinetic Energy Clawed Wolverine, mind blown. Bring it on. Notice they took the Marvel Studios banner out and replaced it with Marvel Animation. Do you think that means anything significant?
That it's animation?
yeah. It's not canon to
Yeah,
MCU.
remember, like it was a year and a half ago that Marvel announced they were creating specifically an animation division, right? That was like a year and a half ago. Remember, I'm always telling you guys, when these big announcements happen, it will take us a year and a half, 2 years, 2.5 years to see or feel the effect of it. This is a great example of that. They announced like ages ago that they were making an animation division, and now we are seeing they've done the other things, the what if too, as that, but yeah, the significance is that's the division that made it, so it's their logo that's on it. All right, what's next?
From JG Trey, I feel like Madam Web is the type of movie that WB would cancel and use as a tax write-off.
Yep.
Then fans would get upset and call WB dumb for canceling it and say that Dadslav has no idea what he's doing.
Yep. Everybody gets mad at me when I say, yeah, guess what? David Zaslav was right to cancel that movie. No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't. Yeah. Yeah, he was. And then Madam Web comes around and everybody's like, oh, yeah.
But it's our right to see their production and make our own decisions.
Everybody's an expert about what other people should do with their money. The thing is, and this is the hardest part, this is a double whammy for them about why they should have canceled it. Because number one, this movie's not going to make back its marketing budget. Forget the production budget. This movie's not even going to make back what they spent to advertise it being in theaters. Then the second side of the hammer is that even though Kraven doesn't have a lot of great buzz right now, let's be honest, I'm looking forward, or at least I was looking forward to it. This movie has just soured people even more against Kraven. Putting this movie in theaters literally just hurt Kraven. Not that Kraven was going to be a big hit anyway, but however good it was going to do, it's going to be less than that now. Sometimes you just got to recognize when something didn't work and cut your losses. That's not just true in the movie business, it's true in life. Sometimes you just got to recognize something isn't working or something did not work. And you can't just keep plowing ahead like, well, I invested a lot of time in this, or I invested a lot of whatever. Like if you're in a horrible, horrible relationship, don't just look in the mirror and go, well, I've already invested 2 years in this relationship. I got to stay in it now. No, you don't. No, you don't. Sometimes in life and in movies, you just got to recognize when something didn't work, you tried, maybe you're going to take a loss, but cut your losses and move on. And that is exactly what Sony should have done with Madam Web. They should have just recognized and said, you know what?
Better recognize.
Maybe we had the best of intentions of making this movie, but it clearly didn't work. And this is horrible. And we're going to damage ourselves and we're going to damage our future projects if we put this out publicly. So let's cut our losses and just cut it. And that's what they should have done. And again, it just kind of proves again, David Zaslav is right. And everybody's going to start to figure that out. All right, what's next?
From Mr. Hank Dunn, I don't know if this makes me a masochist, but I love seeing all the bad reviews for Madam Web. It, for some reason, has made me more excited to see it than any of the trailers or TV spots ever could.
There's truth. There's wisdom in what Mr. Hank Dunn just said. Because I'm at a point in my career that I give myself permission to not see everything if I don't want to. There was a time where it's like, oh, I'm a movie pundit online. I got to see everything. Nah, no, I don't. And if I had heard, how do I put this? The degree of how bad this movie looked ensured that I would see it, if that makes any sense. Like if it was just going to be a not so good movie, I might have gone, you know what, I'll take a pass. But there's a part of morbid curiosity, or as we've been saying, Morbius curiosity, that it was apparently so bad. I'm just like, a part of me was just like, Ray, we still got to go. We have to go see what this is. You guys know, I was fully expecting to walk out of the theater not liking it, but I said I'll probably come out going, you know what, it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. I couldn't even say that. It was that bad. All right, what's next?
From Yana Moore. Hey, John and crew, love your show.
Thank you so much.
For me, 27/2 would be a date to remember. Ordered the IMAX early screening for Dune Part 2, and the first episode of Shogun is finally coming out. So excited.
Yeah, man. I'm so pumped for both of them. But now I got to find out when the Shogun screening is in the theaters. How early do I get to see it? It's a really exciting time. If you're a fan of certain content, man, first, I think I'm already calling it Dune Part 2 wins Best Picture at the Academy Awards. I'm just gonna call it now. I haven't even seen the thing, so what do I know? And Shogun, man, it's gonna win all the Emmys. I cannot wait. Oh, it's gonna be a good end of the month for me. All right, what's next?
From Godzilla 2000. Hey, John, Fandango is sending out invitations to free advanced screenings of the first 2 episodes of Shogun in theaters. Knowing how much you've been looking forward to this show and how much you love theaters, seems like the perfect mix.
Oh yeah,
So
I'm definitely.
Fandango,
I've assigned Ray to find out all the information for me.
He's working on it.
He's working
right
on it.
now.
I'm definitely going to take advantage of this. All right, what's next?
From Hunter. Hey, crew, went to see Madam Web yesterday. A lot more crowded on opening day than Aquaman had. Okay, movie not the worst I've seen. Certainly nowhere near a great movie. But thanks, and bring on the filthy.
Listen, look, as bad as I've been saying it is, it's not the worst movie I've ever seen. Like it doesn't crack my unholy trinity of Catwoman, of Highlander 2, and what's the John Travolta one again? The
Scientology one?
Ron Hubbard one.
Oh yeah. Battlefield Earth.
Yeah.
Battlefield Earth, yeah. It's not Battlefield Earth, Catwoman, or Highlander 2 bad. I mean, that's still the most unholy of all Trinity. But it's knocking on the door. It's knocking on the door of it. All right, what's next?
Thank you. From Ian Barth. Chris, what would it take to have Chrissy Denisio host an episode of the John Campea Show? Me being willing to lose my job and get a lift from here to the valley? Like there'd
be a lot of alcohol involved.
That's a very expensive day, and that's too many drinks to safely drive. And I don't think you guys understand this too. When people are like, "Just lift to work," I drive 140 miles round trip to get here, y'all. Okay, that's too expensive.
Yeah, that's
too
an
much
expensive
money.
lift drive.
Yeah.
Expensive lift drive. All right, last question of the day. What's next?
From Ian Barth. In Close Encounters of the Third Kind, John Williams wrote a bit into the score that was just "When You Wish Upon a Star."
Oh, wow.
Apparently, this was at Spielberg's request. given that Close Encounters was a Columbia Picture movie, how were they able to do that legally? Do they have to pay a royalty to Disney?
Oh no, not especially if people don't recognize it in there. Look, you can't patent a sequence of 4 notes.
Yeah.
It was probably very subtle.
It was very. I did notice it, and you actually like you can hear it if you listen to the thing, but it's only the few notes of it. So you're allowed, right? A few notes of something before it's docked, right? So that's how I got away
so
with
I mean,
it.
you'd have to make a case that. Well, I'm not going to go fully into copyright law here, but you'd have to make a case that it was like unmistakably similar, and that by doing it, you hurt the financial prospects of the opposed party and all that kind of stuff. So no, it would have been perfectly fine. All right, guys. And that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show podcast. Thank you so much for being here, making this show part of your day. By the way, a little bit of a programming note for you guys. We will be doing an open mic a little bit later this afternoon. So if you're kicking around this afternoon, want to just come on by for some more just casual, laid back movie and entertainment discussion, come on by and join me at 4:15 p.m. this afternoon. I will look forward to seeing you there. So for everybody in the room with me, Ray Ora,
See you later.
Jonathan Voico,
Later.
the delightful Chris Carr.
Goodbye.
My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.